The ambulance doors flew open, and they pulled out an old man who couldn't breathe. His name was Walter Jenkins. He was 73 years old, and his heart was giving up. Every breath sounded like a struggle. Every heartbeat felt like his last. The paramedics rushed him to the shiny glass doors of Rose Hill Hospital, the fanciest hospital in the whole city. But fancy doesn't always mean kind. Walter's wrinkled brown hands gripped the sides of the stretcher. His eyes were wide with fear. "My son," he whispered between gasps. "Call my son. He'll come. He'll pay for everything." The nurse wrote something on her clipboard without looking at him. She'd heard promises like that before. Rose Hill Hospital looked like a palace from the outside. The windows sparkled. The floors shined so bright you could see your face in them. Rich people came here when they got sick. Movie stars, business owners, people with thick wallets and thicker insurance papers. Walter didn't look like he belonged here. His clothes were old and worn. His shoes had holes. When they searched his pockets, they found only $3 and a faded photograph of a young boy smiling at the camera. "Is this your son?" a nurse asked, holding up the picture. Walter nodded, too weak to speak. They wheeled him into a small room at the end of a long hallway. The room was cold. The walls were white and bare. One window looked out at the parking lot. This wasn't where they put the rich patients. This was where they put the people they weren't sure about. 3 doctors came to see Walter that first night. Dr. Anton was tall and thin, with glasses that made his eyes look small and mean. Dr. Carla had perfect hair and a voice that sounded sweet but felt cold. Dr. Maxwell was the youngest, and he seemed nervous, always looking at the other 2 for approval. They stood around Walter's bed with their clipboards and their serious faces. "Congestive heart failure," Dr. Anton said, tapping his pen against the clipboard. "Severe. He needs medication, monitoring, possibly surgery. This will be expensive." "Very expensive," Dr. Carla added, crossing her arms. Walter opened his eyes. "My son," he said again, his voice barely a whisper. "Miles. He'll pay. I promise. Just call him." "What's his number?" Dr. Maxwell asked, pulling out his phone. Walter's face crumpled. I don't remember, but he knows I'm here. He always knows. He'll come." The 3 doctors looked at each other. Nobody said anything, but their faces said everything. They didn't believe him. "We'll give him 1 week," Dr. Anton announced, like he was doing Walter a huge favor. 7 days. If nobody comes to pay, if we can't confirm the son exists, then we'll have to make other arrangements." "Other arrangements?" Dr. Maxwell asked. "We can't keep treating someone who can't pay," Dr. Carla said simply. "This is a business, not a charity." The first day passed. Walter lay in his bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and whirred. He stared at the door, waiting for it to open, waiting for Miles to walk through. The door stayed closed. The second day came. Nurses brought him medicine and checked his chart. They didn't smile. They didn't talk to him much. He was just another patient in just another room. "Has anyone called about me?" Walter asked every nurse who came in. "No, honey," they all said. "Nobody's called." By the 3rd day, the whispers started. The hospital staff talked in the hallways, just outside Walter's door. They thought he couldn't hear them, but he could. That old man in room 247? Still nobody's come for him. "You think the son is even real?" "Probably made him up. Probably homeless. How'd he even get here?" "I heard. He told the ambulance driver his son was rich. Like really rich." "Yeah, right. Look at him. Does he look like he has a rich son?" Laughter. Always laughter. Walter turned his face to the wall. A tear rolled down his cheek. His heart hurt, but not from the illness. This was a different kind of pain. The 4th day. The 5th day. The 6th day. Each day, Walter got a little weaker. Each day, the doctors got a little colder. On the 7th day, Dr. Anton, Dr. Carla, and Dr. Maxwell met in a small office. They closed the door. They sat around a table. "It's been a week," Dr. Anton said. "No son, no money, no proof of anything. The bill is already over $50,000, Dr. Carla said, looking at her computer screen. And climbing. What do we do? Dr. Maxwell asked. He sounded worried. We can't just, can we? We have no choice, Dr. Anton said firmly. We discharge him. Today. But he's still sick, Dr. Maxwell protested. His heart is not our problem anymore, Dr. Carla interrupted. We gave him a week. We did our part. If this mystery son exists, he should have shown up by now. Dr. Maxwell opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked down at the table. The decision was made. That afternoon, 2 security guards in dark uniforms walked into Walter's room. Walter was sleeping, dreaming of the little boy in the photograph, dreaming of birthdays and baseball games and bedtime stories. Sir, one of the guards said loudly. Sir, wake up. Walter's eyes fluttered open. He saw the guards. He saw their hard faces. He knew what was coming. No, he whispered. Please, my son, he's coming. I know he is. Just one more day. Please. Hospital orders, sir. You have to leave. Now. They unplugged his machines. The beeping stopped. The room went quiet. They pulled off his medical bracelet. They handed him a plastic bag with his old clothes inside. I can't walk, Walter said, his voice shaking. My heart. I need help. You walked in here. You can walk out, the guard said, though that wasn't true. Walter had been carried in on a stretcher. They lifted him out of the bed. His legs wobbled. He almost fell. Other patients watched from their doorways as the guards half-carried, half-dragged Walter down the long, shiny hallway. Their eyes were wide. Some looked sad. Some looked away. Walter's voice echoed through the corridor. My son is coming. Miles is coming. He'll be here. I promise. Please. But the guards didn't stop. The doctors didn't come. The nurses looked down at their shoes. They pushed Walter through the glass doors, the same doors he'd come through 7 days ago when he was dying. Don't come back, one guard said. The doors closed behind him with a soft whoosh. Walter stood on the sidewalk, alone. The sun was setting. The air was cold. He wrapped his arms around himself and looked up at the tall building. Somewhere inside, the doctors were probably already forgetting about him. But Walter held on to one thought, one tiny flame of hope in his breaking heart. Miles would come. His son always kept his promises. Even if nobody believed him, even if it was too late, Miles would come. Walter sat on a bench outside the hospital, shivering. He had nowhere to go. His chest hurt with every breath. His vision kept getting blurry. But the worst pain was in his heart, the part that feelings live in, not the part that pumps blood. They didn't believe him. Nobody believed him. Inside Rose Hill Hospital, the 3 doctors went back to work like nothing had happened. Dr. Anton saw his next patient. Dr. Carla checked her emails. Dr. Maxwell tried not to think about the old man's face. Everything seemed normal, but it wasn't. The next morning, something strange happened. The hospital's main supplier, the company that brought medicine, bandages, surgical tools, everything, sent an urgent email. We are terminating our contract with Rose Hill Hospital effective immediately. Stephen Hughes, the hospital CEO, read the email 3 times. His hands started shaking. This can't be right, he said out loud to his empty office. We've worked with them for 15 years. He called the supplier right away. Why are you canceling? Stephen demanded. What do we do? The voice on the other end was cold. We receive instructions from higher up. That's all we can say. Goodbye, Mr. Hughes. Click. Stephen stared at his phone. Higher up? What did that mean? 2 hours later, another email arrived. This one was from the National Transplant Certification Board. Rose Hill Hospital had a special license that let them do organ transplants. It was one of only 5 hospitals in the state with that license. It brought in millions of dollars every year. The email said, your certification has been revoked pending investigation. Stephen dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, but he didn't even notice. This is impossible, he whispered. We haven't done anything wrong. But the emails kept coming. The insurance companies that worked with the hospital started pulling out, one by one, like dominoes falling down. We will no longer cover procedures at Rose Hill Hospital. Our partnership is dissolved. Effective immediately, we are severing all ties. By lunchtime, the hospital was in chaos. Nurses whispered in corners. Doctors made panic phone calls. Patients started checking out early, scared that something was terribly wrong. Stephen Hughes sat in his office with his head in his hands. 15 phone calls, 20 emails. Everyone said the same thing. They couldn't tell him why. They just had instructions from higher up. Who had this much power? That afternoon, something even worse happened. Government inspectors showed up unannounced. They had badges and clipboards and serious faces. They wanted to see everything: patient records, financial documents, employee files. We received multiple complaints about Rose Hill Hospital. The lead inspector said, "We're here to investigate negligence, patient mistreatment, and financial fraud." Complaints. Stephen said, his voice rising. "What complaints? From who?" The inspector just smiled. "That's confidential." They spent hours going through everything. They interviewed nurses. They looked at security footage. They checked every room, every closet, every computer. And then they found something. "Mr. Hughes," the inspector called out, "can you explain why a patient named Walter Jenkins was discharged 7 days ago while still in critical condition?" Stephen's blood went cold. "Walter Jenkins? I don't know that name." "Well, you should. We have footage of security guards removing him from his room. We have records showing he had severe heart failure. And we have witnesses who say he was begging not to be thrown out." The inspector held up a tablet showing the security video. There was Walter, weak and scared, being dragged down the hallway. Stephen watched the video. His face went pale. "Who authorized this?" he asked quietly. "According to the paperwork, 3 doctors, Dr. Anton, Dr. Carla, and Dr. Maxwell." Stephen closed his eyes. He suddenly felt very, very tired. That night, Stephen sat alone in his dark office. The hospital was falling apart. Everything they'd built was crumbling, and he didn't understand why. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello." Stephen answered. "Mr. Hughes." The voice was deep and calm. "My name is Miles Robinson." Stephen's heart skipped. That name. He knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Miles Robinson owned Robinson Automotive, one of the biggest car companies in the world. He had factories in 20 countries. He was worth billions of dollars. His face was on magazine covers. "Mr. Robinson," Stephen said carefully, "how can I help you?" "You can't help me," Miles said, "but I thought you deserved to know the truth before everything falls apart completely." "The truth about what?" "About why your hospital is being destroyed." Stephen gripped the phone tighter. "That's you? You're doing this?" "Yes." No hesitation. No apology. "But why? What did we do to you?" Miles's voice changed. It got quieter, but somehow more dangerous. 7 days ago, your hospital admitted my father." Stephen's mind raced. "Father? I don't understand." "His name is Walter Jenkins. He's 73 years old. He has a bad heart. And your doctors threw him out onto the street like garbage." The room started spinning. Stephen remembered the video. The old man in the hallway. "That was your father?" Stephen whispered. "He raised me." Miles said, "He adopted me when I was 8 years old. My real parents died in a car accident. I was alone, scared, living in a shelter. Walter was a janitor. He didn't have much money, but he had a big heart." Miles paused. Stephen could hear him breathing. "He took me in. He gave me his bed and slept on the couch. He worked 2 jobs to buy me clothes and books. He taught me how to read, how to dream, how to believe I could be anything I wanted. Mr. Robinson, He told your doctors I would pay. He told them I was coming. But they didn't believe him, because he looked poor, because his clothes were old, because they judged him by his appearance instead of his character." Stephen felt sick. "So I made some calls." Miles continued. "I talked to your suppliers, your insurance partners. Your certification boards. I explained that any company doing business with Rose Hill Hospital would no longer do business with Robinson Automotive. That's not fair, Stephen said weakly. Fair. Miles's voice rose for the first time. Was it fair to throw a dying old man onto the street? Was it fair to ignore his pleas? Was it fair to treat him like he was nothing? Silence. I gave your hospital a chance. Miles said, I waited 7 days, just like your doctors did. I watched to see if anyone would realize their mistake, if anyone would show compassion, if anyone would go find my father and bring him back. And nobody did. Your hospital just moved on, like he never existed. Stephen looked at the security footage still playing on the tablet. Walter's face, his frightened eyes, his trembling hands. Where is he now? Stephen asked, Is he alive? Barely. Miles said, I have him at Presbyterian Hospital across town. The doctors are actually treating him like a human being. Funny how that works. Mr. Robinson, please, can we fix this? Can we make this right? Miles laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Make it right? Mr. Hughes, your hospital is finished. By tomorrow morning, you'll have no suppliers, no insurance partners, and no transplant certification. Your reputation is ruined, and it's not because I'm cruel. Then why? Because the world needs to know that you can't treat people like trash just because they look poor. My father taught me that everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves respect. And when you forget that, there are consequences. What about the doctors? Stephen asked. Anton, Carla, and Maxwell? Oh, them. Miles's voice got very quiet. I'm coming to the hospital tomorrow. Noon. I expect all 3 of them to be there. We're going to have a conversation. And then they're going to learn what it feels like to lose everything. The phone went dead. Stephen sat in the darkness, the tablet still glowing in front of him. On the screen, Walter was reaching out, begging, pleading. And nobody had listened. Tomorrow, Miles Robinson was coming. And Stephen knew that nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, Rose Hill Hospital felt like a ghost town. Half the staff had already quit. Patients were being transferred to other hospitals. The shiny floors didn't seem so bright anymore. The fancy glass doors looked empty and cold. Stephen Hughes called an emergency meeting at 11 o'clock. He gathered everyone in the main conference room, nurses, administrators, security guards, and the 3 doctors, Anton, Carla, and Maxwell. Dr. Anton walked in with his head high, acting like nothing was wrong. Dr. Carla checked her phone, annoyed at being called away from her work. Dr. Maxwell looked nervous. He'd barely slept. Sit down, Stephen said. His voice was tired and sad. They all sat. Does anyone here remember a patient named Walter Jenkins? Stephen asked. The room went silent. Dr. Anton cleared his throat. The old man from last week? The one with no insurance. That's the one, Stephen said. Tell me what happened. Dr. Carla shrugged. We gave him a week to prove he could pay. Nobody came. We had to discharge him. Standard procedure. Standard procedure, Stephen repeated slowly. You threw a dying man out onto the street. That's standard. He said he had a son, Dr. Maxwell said quietly. But the son never showed up. Oh, the son showed up, Stephen said. He turned on the large screen behind him. A photo appeared. A man in an expensive suit standing next to a luxury car. This is Miles Robinson. Some people in the room gasped. Everyone knew that name. Miles Robinson is Walter Jenkins' son. Stephen continued. The man you didn't believe existed. The man you called a liar. Dr. Anton's face went white. Dr. Carla dropped her phone. Dr. Maxwell put his head in his hands. And Miles Robinson, Stephen said, his voice getting harder, is the reason our hospital is falling apart. He made one phone call, and our suppliers left. Another call, and our insurance partners ran. He's been systematically destroying us because we destroyed his father. But we didn't know. Dr. Carla said, standing up, how were we supposed to know he was telling the truth? You could have believed him. A voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. A man stood there, tall, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. His eyes were dark and serious. His face was calm, but you could see the anger underneath, like a volcano waiting to explode. Miles Robinson had arrived. You could have given him a chance, Miles said, walking into the room. You could have made one phone call to verify his story. You could have treated him with basic human dignity while you figured things out. He walked slowly around the table, looking at each person. But you didn't. You looked at his old clothes and his worn-out shoes, and you decided he wasn't worth your time. Mr. Robinson, Dr. Anton said, trying to sound confident, we follow hospital policy. We can't treat everyone for free. We'd go bankrupt. Miles stopped walking. He stared at Dr. Anton. Do you know what my father did for a living? Miles asked. Dr. Anton shook his head. He was a janitor. He cleaned office buildings at night. He made barely enough money to feed himself. But when he found me, an 8-year-old kid with nobody in the world, he didn't ask if I was worth it. He didn't check my pockets to see if I had money. He just saw a child who needed help. Miles's voice got quieter, but everyone listened harder. He took me home. He gave me food. He gave me love. He worked 3 jobs so I could go to school. He stayed up late helping me with homework, even though he was exhausted. He believed in me when nobody else did. Dr. Maxwell was crying now, real tears running down his face. I built my company because of him. Miles said, every car we make, every employee we hire, every success we have, it's because Walter Jenkins taught me that people matter more than money. He turned to look at all 3 doctors. And you threw him away like trash. Dr. Carla tried to speak. We made a mistake. We're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Miles said, sorry doesn't erase the fear he felt when your security guards dragged him out. Sorry doesn't heal the pain of being treated like he was worthless. Stephen Hughes stood up. Mr. Robinson, what do you want? Miles pulled out 3 pieces of paper from his jacket. He placed them on the table. Termination letters. For Dr. Anton, Dr. Carla, and Dr. Maxwell. Effective immediately. You can't do that, Dr. Anton shouted. You don't work here. No, but I own 30% of this hospital stock. Miles said calmly. I bought it this morning, and as a major shareholder, I have voting power. Mr. Hughes has already agreed. These 3 are fired. Dr. Carla's hands shook. I have a family. I have bills. You're ruining our lives. Miles looked at her with no expression. You ruined my father's life. You ruined his dignity. Now you know how it feels. Security guards came in. Different guards than the ones who had thrown Walter out. Please escort these 3 out of the building. Miles said, they are no longer employees here. Dr. Maxwell stood up slowly. He looked at Miles. I'm sorry, he whispered. I really am. I knew it was wrong. I should have said something. Miles studied him for a moment. Then you should have been braver. They walked out. Dr. Anton was yelling about lawyers. Dr. Carla was crying. Dr. Maxwell just looked at the floor. The doors closed behind them. The room was silent. Then Miles turned to everyone else. Let this be a lesson. Every patient who comes through those doors is somebody's father, somebody's mother, somebody's child. Treat them all like they matter, because they do. He walked toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. Rose Hill Hospital is going to create a fund. $5 million. It will pay for patients who can't afford care. We're going to call it the Walter Jenkins Compassion Fund. Stephen Hughes nodded. Yes, Mr. Robinson. Absolutely. Miles walked outside. A black car was waiting. And sitting in the back seat, wrapped in a warm blanket, was Walter. His face lit up when he saw Miles. My boy, he said, his voice still weak but full of love. Miles got in the car and put his arm around Walter's shoulders. I'm here, Dad. I told you I'd come. I knew you would, Walter said. I always knew. The driver started the car. As they pulled away from Rose Hill Hospital, Walter looked back at the building one last time. He didn't feel angry. He didn't feel bitter. He just felt tired. and grateful and loved. Where are we going? Walter asked. Home. Miles said, I'm taking you home. You're going to rest, get better, and I'm going to take care of you, just like you took care of me. Walter smiled and closed his eyes. For the first time in days, he felt safe. Inside the hospital, nurses watched the car drive away. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They had seen Walter that terrible day, being dragged out. They had done nothing. They would never forget that shame. But they would also never forget the lesson. Stephen Hughes stood at the window of his office, watching the car disappear down the street. He thought about Walter. He thought about Miles. He thought about how close they had come to losing everything, because 3 doctors forgot the most important rule of medicine: care for people. All people. Always. He picked up his phone and called a hospital-wide meeting. Things were going to change at Rose Hill Hospital. Starting today, across town at Miles's mansion, Walter sat in a comfortable chair by a warm fireplace. A nurse checked his heart. A doctor reviewed his medicine. Everything was perfect. Miles brought him a cup of tea. You know, Walter said, I wasn't scared when they threw me out. No, Miles said, sitting down next to him. No, because I knew you'd come. I raised you to be strong, to be kind, to stand up for what's right. Walter took Miles's hand. And you did. I'm so proud of you, son. Miles felt tears in his eyes. I learned it from you, Dad. They sat together in the quiet, the fire crackling, the tea steaming, the world outside spinning with the news of what had happened at Rose Hill Hospital. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the money, not the company, not the revenge. Just a father and his son. Together. Safe. Home. The end. The lesson. This story teaches us something important. How we treat people says everything about who we are. Walter looked poor, but he was rich in love. The doctors looked successful, but they were poor in compassion. Miles had all the money in the world, but his greatest treasure was the man who raised him. In life, we will meet people who look different from us. People who dress differently. People who seem to have less. But every single person has value. Every single person deserves respect. The 3 doctors lost their jobs because they forgot this simple truth. The hospital almost fell apart because profit became more important than people. But Walter and Miles reminded everyone what really matters: love, loyalty, and treating others the way we want to be treated. So the next time you see someone who needs help, remember Walter. Remember that behind every face is a story. Behind every struggle is a human being who deserves dignity. And remember that the way we treat the least among us shows the truth of who we really are. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire and teach. Your support helps us create more content that matters.